Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to Earth Day Live, earthday.org's ongoing broadcast series to feature thought leaders across environmental topics. Today, we are so excited to be bringing three leaders from local government interactions across the world who are all doing incredible work to invest in our planet. This is especially important as this year's theme for Earth Day is Our Power, Our Planet, which calls for a tripling of renewable energy output worldwide by 2030, and we can't do it without the help of our local elected leaders. Adaptation begins in city government. It's the place where the quality of the air, water, land, and climate that we all depend on is principally determined. We'll see today in the discussions with these three leaders all of the ways in which local governments are driving change in their communities, all of the ways in which renewable energy is creating transformative effects in the lives of their constituents, and all of the ways in which we can reach a more prosperous and stable future through investment in renewable energy and other climate technology. So I would love to welcome to the stage now our three esteemed panelists. Vice Mayor Vicky Vinker, Councillor Mohammed Rafiq, and Antoine Thompson. The three of them represent excellent communities all across the world, and we thank them for joining across all these time zones. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to each of them to introduce themselves and explain a little bit more about their roles, starting with Vice Mayor Vinker.
Well, in Palo Alto, I'll say good morning, and thank you for having me, Evan. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Vicky Vinker, and I am the Vice Mayor of Palo Alto, California, where I chair the city's Climate and Sustainability Committee and sit on boards of several regional bodies that are in the that are climate-related organizations.
Thank you. Councillor Rafiq, let's have you introduce yourself next.
Thank you, Ivan, for having me here today. I'm Councillor Mohammed Rafiq. I'm a cabinet lead here in Leeds, which is the second biggest local authority in UK, and I'm a cabinet lead for climate, energy, environment, and green spaces, which is very wide-ranging portfolio, mostly frontline services, which is crucial to, obviously to our future and what we do, particularly in terms of our climate and energy related projects.
Yes, and we can't wait to learn more. And Antoine, why don't we go ahead and have you introduce yourself as well?
Yeah, thank you for having me. Antoine Thompson, Greater Washington Region Clean Cities Coalition. We cover DC, Northern Virginia, and many parts of the state of Maryland. We focus on clean transportation, reducing greenhouse gases and emissions, and working with our stakeholders and community members to make this planet a better place, especially from the transportation sector.
Wonderful. Thank you. All right. And so now we will begin our panel discussion. We'll be asking each of you some questions to get to know your community a bit better and understand all of the ways in which renewable energy and climate action makes a difference to the residents that inhabit your cities. All right. Vice Mayor Vinker, Palo Alto is far ahead of many cities in the United States when it comes to renewable energy and other climate projects. Can you please give us an overview of the city's climate action program and how the success was achieved? What role did community engagement play in the formation and implementation of these plans?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Palo Alto's climate leadership is based on a long environmental tradition out here. We were protecting our natural environment back in the 1970s when we designated the area on the shore of the San Francisco Bay as parkland, and we began building one of the most extensive urban tree canopies in California, which makes sense because, after all, Palo Alto was named after a tree. But on climate, we started early. We're a city well known for innovation, and we experimented with rooftop solar back in the 1980s, long before the California Solar Initiative. We made strong commitments to energy efficiency dating back to the 80s and 90s. And even in the early 2000s, we began buying utility scale renewable energy, even before there were RPS requirements in California. From there, we achieved zero net carbon by 2013, and by 2017, we were using only new California renewable sources of energy. So today we have a comprehensive sustainability and climate action plan with the ambitious goal of reducing greenhouse gas emissions 80% below 1990 levels by 2030. And we're almost halfway there, despite a population increase during the time we've been working on it of more than 20%. So we're optimistic about it. And now we're focused on making good use of that clean energy I talked about to further reduce our emissions through deep electrification of building equipment and through EVs. And you asked about our community members, they have been key to every one of our milestones. We enjoy broad support from local advocates and have both a youth climate advisory board and a terrific community working group that includes some of Palo Alto's many retired engineers who have turned their skills to designing and promoting our climate programs. They've got great ideas, good feedback, and they're good at keeping the pressure on us to work smarter, better, and faster. They understand that while the city needs to make electrification as easy as possible, our residents and businesses share the responsibility to act by using the infrastructure we produce to achieve our climate goals.
It's always incredible to hear about such a well-rounded and long-standing approach to climate. With such a background, we're confident that you'll be able to hit those 2030 goals in alignment with our Power Our Planet theme. Antoine, I would actually like to ask you more about how the theme applies to a state level form of governance. Based on your time as a New York State Senator, are there any learnings that you can share about how elected leaders in state government can use their power to make the most meaningful impact possible to address climate change?
Yeah, absolutely. I had the awesome opportunity when I was a state senator to be the first African American to chair the Environmental Conservation Committee. That was a Senate committee that led a lot of the environmental legislation and in funding. And so absolutely, there's a lot that can be done, from holding hearings to passing laws to funding issues to combat climate change. I can share with you firsthand a number of things that I was involved with. There was a plant called the Tonawanda Coke plant in Tonawanda, New York, a suburb of Buffalo, New York. And I was able to have the head of the Department of Environmental Conservation and the US EPA investigate the site. It was polluting the area. It was causing cancer to a lot of these suburban residents. And I got that ball rolling. It took some time. It was polluting the area, the air very badly, high rates of cancer around that facility. And it took years, but they finally closed Tonawanda Coke just because I had the courage to have it investigated, did a lot of letters, brought some powerful people out to that site, and we were able to do that. The other thing is around some of the historic transportation policies where highways have come through communities. And in Buffalo, New York, for example, and in Rochester, New York, about an hour away, because of the effort that I led, and because of state government and federal intervention as well, they are beginning to reconnect neighborhoods that were where they put highways in them, and around these communities where they put highways right through cities and urban neighborhoods, there are often high rates of asthma and other respiratory related illnesses and higher rates of cancer. And so there's a role that we can play to impact transportation decisions where we have large diesel vehicles rolling right through these neighborhoods, changing the climate, but also creating havoc on the public health of community residents and the workers in those communities as well.
Thank you so much, Antoine. I really appreciate the fact that public health and equity are so centered within your work, both as a state senator and in your current work with the Greater Washington Region Clean Cities Coalition. Loved the example in particular of the ways in which highways play such a key role in whether or not a city is able to have healthy and equitable access to city services. I know that in my hometown of Boston, removing the highway from downtown played such a key role in creating a healthier community whose economic and social services were open to all. And I appreciate that you've been able to bring similar opportunity to other cities. So now taking a look across the pond to the UK, I would love to ask you, Councillor Rafik, a little bit more about your own approach to the future of environment, public health, and equity within the community. As the Council's executive member for climate, energy, environment, and green spaces, how do you create a vision for what the future of Leeds should look like? Please feel free to highlight any of your successes, projects, and long-term plans for the city. Councillor, I believe you're on mute.
Back in, thank you, Iwan. Back in 2019, we, as a local authority, as a council, declared a climate emergency, and what we said is we'll do everything to become net zero by 2030. So since then we've been taking a number of steps to become, and that is our ambition, to be the UK's first city to become net zero, which is why we have a net zero as one of our council's 3 pillars as part of its best city ambition. I work within the council, across the council, and our third sector partners to establish a clear policy and projects that work towards this ambition, along the way ensuring that our communities are supported throughout. Our communities, residents, and those who work and visit the city are priority and when undergoing any work within the city. We've had several successful projects which have been highlighted nationally, internationally as well. The Leeds Pipes, this is a district heating network, low carbon energy project. We've got public sector decarbonisation scheme, which has been useful and incremental in decarbonising public buildings. We've had hundreds of homes being retrofitted, and the RUF, which is recycling energy recovery facility, where we generate the heat. Work throughout the city to implement more tree planting, working with our communities and schools to undertake seed collections. Again, about 5 years ago, we embarked on a program to plant around 200,000 trees each year, for which we work with schools and education settings to get the message out, to involve our communities and young people, but also to implement our climate emergency messaging as well. The flood alleviation schemes has been, in 2 parts, phase 1 and phase 2. The phase 1 was as a result of floods in Leeds in 2015 on Boxing Day, where parts of the city centre was actually flooded. And this was one of the biggest schemes in the country at the time, where we actually supported on completion of the scheme 3,000 business homes and 500 businesses covering about 300 acres of development were actually protected with the phase 1. The phase 2 was only completed recently, going into hundreds of millions of pounds, and And that's, not just within Leeds, but beyond Leeds, as well. So there's been a lot of work in terms of some really heavy projects in terms of the last 10 years. We also have a butterfly conservation work linked to the Tropical World, which is in one of our popular parks in Roundy. So I could go on, but I think I've probably done my 2.5 minutes.
Yes, and there will be plenty of time for us to continue to learn all about the amazing ways that Leeds is working across sectors to be able to bring sustainability into focus throughout the city. Yes, and as Richard put it, it's so important that local officials and local residents are involved in the process. This is how we achieve a global climate victory. Is through working across all of these different issue areas within our cities to bring sustainability into the forefront. And it's been great to hear how this is happening both at the city and the state level. And so now what I'd love for Vice Mayor Vinker to address is how do we bridge the two? As you've not only accomplished groundbreaking climate accomplishments in Palo Alto, but you've also stepped up as a statewide leader as well. I'd love to hear about the ways in which you are coordinating with other local officials across California to implement municipal climate action. Looks like we may have just lost Vice Mayor for a moment there. We'll be more than happy to hear her response in just a moment. For the time being, why don't we go ahead and move over to Antoine? I'd love to ask you a little bit about similar work to be able to work across borders and be able to unite cities together across a region for stronger climate action. This is central to the vision of the Greater Washington Region Clean Cities Coalition, frequently working with elected officials and other government leaders all over the national capital area to advance climate action. So how are coalition members working to invest in our planet this year? What types of projects do you expect to be implemented by governments in the Greater Washington region between now and next Earth Day?
Yeah, excellent question. A number of exciting things. So number one, in DC government, we're working with the DC government around low carbon fuels with medium and heavy duty vehicles through the Diesel Emission Reduction Act program. That's a great program, working with DC Water, DC Department of Transportation, and also DC Department of Public Works. I also sit on the regional EV working group. So we're working to get EV deployment, coordinating electric vehicle deployment legislation, and also policies, but most importantly, deployment across our region in DC, Maryland, and Virginia. I also sit on a few other boards that are deploying. We're doing ride and drives in the area. A lot of our region, we have an electric school bus program where we're working with school districts in DC, Maryland, and Virginia to deploy electric school buses, but also to make sure the communities where the pollution is the highest, that they get access in a fair and responsible and equitable way in those areas as well. The other thing is making sure that we're deploying EV charging stations in more communities. So that is a big thing for us in our region. And so we've been very involved in that. We have a Drive Electric DC program. We have a Mid-Atlantic Electrification Project. We have two electric school bus initiatives, and a number of multifamily program and workplace charging program to try to make sure that both public and private sector leaders are offering charging. We're trying to get more alternative fuels in our area for our medium and heavy duty fleet, everything from biodiesel to propane as well. So we're doing a lot more to do. Our members are heavily investing in technology. And the big word for us is education / deployment.
And as someone who also lives in the DC region, I can't wait to see that deployment. It'll certainly be enriching, and thank you for your leadership to get all of these officials on board. And welcome back, Vice Mayor Vinker. We'd love to also continue our discussion on intercity climate action. To reiterate, you've stepped up as a statewide leader in California for climate action. We'd love to hear about the ways in which you're coordinating with other local leaders across California to implement municipal climate action.
Great, happy to do that. And thanks for bearing with whatever the technical glitch was. And first I have to say to Mohammed that it's a race to net zero by 2030. So we will we'll try to meet you there from Palo Alto. All right. Well, since greenhouse gases don't care about municipal boundaries, partnering with others is essential. And our city has always partnered with other municipalities with respect to local energy and green building codes. We share information and solutions, such as partnering on cost effectiveness studies, et cetera. But in addition, because Palo Alto owns all of its own utilities, including electric, we are a member of a larger group of 15 cities called the Northern California Power Agency. And those other 15 cities also own their own electric utilities. And I am Palo Alto's commissioner on the NCPA board, and we have partnered with NCPA on building our hydroelectric supply back in the 1980s, and recently partnered to build solar energy. And we're a partner in a consortium to build a hydrogen hub in California. So that's interesting work. And locally, we have great partners throughout the 9 counties in the Bay Area, including, these counties include San Francisco, Oakland, and San Jose. And together, we've set up regional bodies like the Bay Area Regional Collaborative, which is, the acronym is BARC, and BayREN, which is Bay Area Renewable Energy Network, and various community choice energy aggregators. So I sit on the board of BARC, which is a consortium of regional state agencies established by the state legislature 20 years ago, and we work together on issues like climate. So, for example, in 2022, the board authorized a shared work plan, which outlines 3 ambitious initiatives and amplifies the roles that regional and state agencies can play in supporting local jurisdictions. And the initiatives focus on climate adaptation and a carbon-free future. Another regional coalition, as I mentioned, is the Bay Area Regional Energy Network, which is also a coalition of the Bay Area's 9 counties, but it's like a network of the of government staff that partners to promote resource efficiency, focusing on energy, water, and greenhouse gas reduction. And then I also serve as vice chair of the Bay Area Air Quality Management District, which recently issued first in the nation rules that no residential gas water heaters that emit nitrous oxides can be sold in the Bay Area starting in 2027 and gas furnaces in 2029. So our city, Palo Alto, is partnering with the Air District on programs to help get large numbers of people to electrify as these regulations come into effect. And I just wanted to mention, listening to Antoine, that the Air District has a really excellent new environmental justice strategic plan to help us achieve those goals equitably and with work centered around public health as well. So I'm glad we're rowing in the same direction there.
Yes, it has been thrilling to hear how much alignment all of you have in terms of the role that public health plays in renewable energy deployment. This is something that's so central to our messaging here at earthday.org, that these are things that not only help us achieve a global climate victory, but also make a real difference in the lives of the people on this earth. And for everyone out in the audience, as we approach the halfway mark, we'd love to remind you that at the end of our panel discussion, we'll have space for a Q&A. Feel free to comment on whatever platform you're streaming, and we'll be sure to bring a comment up on stage to ask our panelists to have a little bit of a discussion with the audience at the end. Now, let's go ahead over to Councillor Rafiq. I'd love to ask you a little bit about recent developments in Leeds. We understand that Leeds was recently awarded funds to implement some really ambitious decarbonization projects across the city. Can you tell us a little bit more about this opportunity? How will the funds be used, and how will it actually improve the lives of the residents of Leeds?
Yeah, thank you. Well, we were fortunate to receive 2 different grants, which will provide residents with more efficient energy, not only making their day-to-day of living more efficient, but improving their health and making a positive impact financially. First of all, the first grant was a Warm Homes local grant. This is for private sector homes. We have been allocated 5.9 million, which we estimate will enable us to assist in the delivery of retrofit measures to approximately 480 homes up until March 2028. Homes will receive a mixture of energy efficiency improvements, such as insulation, low carbon heating, and microgeneration through a mixture of area-based and citywide schemes. For Warm Homes local grant, it will later this year. It will be later this year that residents will get the chance to apply to have their homes included in the scheme. We tend to use some of this funding towards extending the area renewal scheme in Holbeck. This is a mixture of private and social homes which were retrofitted a few years ago. So that's one part of the grant. The other one is Warm Homes social housing, which accounts for many council homes as well. We were allocated for this over 13.7 million, with a further 15.1 million coming from our housing revenues account, which is our own match funding to provide a total budget of just under 28 million. This scheme will support delivery of retrofit upgrades to 1,400 homes, improving their EPC rating to a C from their current rating of D or below. Delivery will commence in 2025-26, with a project due to be completed by March 2028. Measures will be a mixture of external wall insulation, cavity wall insulation, loft insulation, and some air source heat pumps. Where feasible, there will be aimed to combine delivery with a Warm Homes local grant to offer cross-tenure improvements in the neighbourhoods we will be working in. This aims to build on the neighbourhood approach pioneered in the previous Holbeck scheme, which I referred to. Schemes will be delivered in a number of different areas in Leeds. And those who know Leeds, it will be Seacroft, Armley, Holbeck, and the Hotdales and Moortown, as well as non-area-based loft insulation programme. Utilisation of this grant to upgrade homes aims to deliver an estimated energy saving up to 10 mega kilowatt across the properties. 10 million, kilowatt across the properties. That's a huge results, both financially and economically and environmentally as well for our residents in those areas.
Wow, it's truly incredible how much of a funding opportunity there is right now in Leeds. Wouldn't it be amazing to see every community worldwide have this type of resource to be able to back their commitment to decarbonization? It's what we strive for, and what we hope that we'll see more of here in the US at least. All right, so something that I'd love to ask each of you now is a little bit more about your renewable energy programs in particular, about the ways in which you're using our power to step up for our planet. So Vice Mayor Beaker, we've heard so much about the legacy of renewable energy and climate action that's built upon in Palo Alto. And so I'd love to hear about, from your own time in office, what are some of the proudest accomplishments in terms of renewable energy? And how do you expect renewable energy implementation to grow moving forward?
Well, thank you for that question, because that's key. And as I mentioned earlier, we're very proud of our zero net carbon electric portfolio that we achieved through NCPA's hydropower, solar, and wind. But even before we started buying utility scale renewable energy, we had a lot of appetite for local renewable energy. So we're proud that we had that first solar rooftop pilot in the 1980s. And then we started experimenting with a variety of strategies to encourage more, ranging from incentives incentives for people to do it, to net metering, to group purchasing, to feed-in tariffs. And at this point, we're proud that we have over 20 megawatts of local solar in a city of only 68,000. And our next frontier will be energy storage. We are looking at energy storage in our utility scale solar facilities, for example, but we're also studying how we could do more locally. The biggest barrier is cost, but if energy storage prices keep declining, we want to see what opportunities there are to pair local solar with energy storage and microgrids to be able to produce more energy locally. And the famous California sun, we could take advantage of that. And we could also use that energy production for backup power if when the grid is down. So this approach could be really helpful in the context of community resiliency hubs where people could gather in the event of a major disaster to help with basic power needs, charging cell phones, et cetera. So those are some of the things that we're looking forward to doing next.
Yes, absolutely. It's great to hear about this ambition for storage, something that's often left out of the climate conversation. It's a really important next step, especially for a community that has so much generation. It's amazing that for a community of your size to be producing this much renewables. It's also great to hear about the ways in which resilience hubs are playing a role in this as well. I know that when I speak to local governments across the Gulf area, hurricane-stricken regions, this is always one of the first things I recommend. That renewable energy can and does save lives. Now, Antoine, I'd love to hear your thoughts on maybe some similar opportunities in our region of the country. What kind of trends do you see in renewable energy across the greater Washington region? The National Capital Area is one of the fastest growing regions, both economically and in terms of energy demand. So how are GWRCCC members working to implement clean power across the region? How do we look at the future of the region's economy and plan accordingly with renewable energy?
Yeah, that's exciting. No, we have a number of things that people are doing to promote different forms of renewable energy. Some are involved with getting solar farms in our area, which is really exciting. We're also doing a lot of work with the Public Service Commission as well to work with our utilities to make it easier for them to provide low cost and clean power in our area as well, which has been a very challenging thing as well, trying to work through some of the politics of the public service commissions and the state legislative bodies and district legislative bodies as well. So those have been really important. The other thing is we do go around to a lot of the biofuel plants and facilities. We're trying to get a lot of the homes in the state of Maryland are powered by diesel fuel, believe it or not. It's also popular in a lot of other states. So we're trying to get more low carbon fuels the way they have in California. They have a low carbon fuel standard. I was literally talking with the Maryland League of Conservation Voters about this earlier. Half of the clean energy for transportation is procured in one state in California. So we've got a lot of great policies in the Mid-Atlantic, but we've been slow on deployment. We're doing some good things. We have a lot more to do, though. And then on the renewable portfolio, we like to have a low carbon fuel standard in our region. We love to see even more robust funding that provide more tax credits and incentives for people to expand our renewable portfolio. So we do have Maryland has a renewable portfolio standard, but it could be a lot more robust. It could do a lot more things. And I would love to see us do more around when we're funding a lot of tax credit programs, right? I would love to see more of these tax credit programs have a more green standard to it. We're providing more incentives for people that do development projects, both commercial, multifamily, et cetera. If those buildings have more renewable initiatives attached to them. We're already investing, but they're isolated, right? They're often isolated, and everything is not being done with the Green Bank as well. So those are a few of the things that I really care about. And we're doing a lot of good work with our public sector leaders, but we can do even more.
Yes, well said. And if we're going to keep pace with our growing economy, we'll absolutely need to see that growth happen within our governance as well. All right, and now Councillor Rafiq, we'd love to hear your thoughts on this same line of questioning as well. We've heard so much about all of the different ways across sectors that Leeds is taking on climate action. We'd love to know if there's anything else that should be shared about the current state of renewable energy in Leeds. I know that for an area that for many centuries at this point has been urbanized, that deployment of renewable energy is something that has to be thought of strategically. So what does the roadmap look like through now over the next few years and decades to help the city reach that goal of being entirely powered by clean energy?
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to use the couple of examples I've already given, which is the Leeds Pipes, which is a very unique low carbon district heating program for which we receive national and international praise. And this is 62 million investment to date, including grant funding, central government, Fair Social Combined Authority, European Regional Development Fund. And as a result of this scheme, we've saved 5,900 tons of carbon so far each year. There's been 30 kilometers of pipe work installed so far. 430 green jobs have been created. Over 50 buildings connected to the network. This is public building, multi-story buildings, including public buildings. That includes multi-story flats. One of Europe's largest teaching hospitals, which is St James Hospital, Leeds Beckett University, Leeds Conservatoire, and 4 council buildings as well as over 2,000 private and residential homes as well. So the key facts of the scheme are that you like the actual heat, which is recovered from the recycling energy and recovery facility. This is the non-recyclable waste, which is incinerated, and the heat is captured from that and through the pipes is stored, and then through the pipes it's actually then used to heat the homes and the buildings. So it's completely as you can imagine, there's no gas or electricity involved in that. So it is affordable compared to gas and electricity. It's reliable because we have backup boilers near the energy centre. It's low carbon, as I said, given the nature of it. The benefits are huge. It reduces bills for residents and businesses, tackles fuel poverty, over 2,000 flats, social housing, leasehold, student flats. And the network has been constructed over 3 phases so far, with 24.5 million scored for a southbound extension very recently from the government's Green Heat Network. And I can talk about the Green Heat Network more That's something we used to be the network investment project, but now it's the Green Heat Network Fund, which will be divided into zones. I know I'm conscious of the time, and if we have time, I can go more into that. Well, I'll stop there. But I think the futures looks great, providing we get some ask from government in terms of mandating or zoning those areas where we could work with everybody if it's created into a zone, as opposed to people opting into it. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And we'd love to ask you more about that collaborative aspect in just a moment. But before we do so, I'd love to be able to bring things back around the horn one more time for a round of questions before we go into our Q&A. We're going to just go quickly through this section. We'd love to hear just a few more remarks from each of you as part of our planned program. To summarize really our conversation here, Vice Mayor Vinker, if another city was to follow in Palo Alto's footsteps, where should they begin in terms of planning and implementation so that they too can achieve environmental excellence?
Well, I would say know your community, seek their support, make it easy for them to get involved, and focus on your strengths. So because we enjoy such strong community support, and because one of our strengths is that we have all of our utilities under one roof, in addition to electric, we also own our own gas, water, sewer, et cetera. It's a little easier for us to do that. So we actually aspire to be a laboratory or a proving ground for innovative programs that others can adopt, using the techniques I just mentioned. Like, for example, our first of its kind heat pump water heater program is an example held up by the Air District of how to help electrify. And that's a program where we send someone out to your home, answer your questions, do on-bill financing. It's like a concierge service. We will help you. We even have a contractor that has a flat fee that we recommend and provide. So that's one thing. We have currently a grid modernization program for our electric utility. That's a model that we've shared with our partners in the Northern California Power Agency. And we're studying how to manage our gas utility through a decline in gas sales as we electrify. So doing all of that stuff kind of as a lab, we hope we can model things for other. And, the main thing is you don't want people to feel stupid when they try to do these things. There's a lot of technical pieces. And so we really need to help them feel that they can do this.
Wonderful. I hope that some of our audience members will be in a position where they can take this advice and bring it to those who are able to help implement these steps forward in their communities. I know that there's quite a few places across, at least here in the United States, that are ready to take those steps. And hearing this advice will hopefully make it easier for them to do so. Here in the DC region, we're starting to take certain steps in the right direction, which will be highlighted in an upcoming event that Antoine, I believe you'll be putting on for Earth Day. Would you like to share a little bit of information about what you have planned for this coming weekend?
Yeah, I'm really excited this year. This Saturday, April 19th, 10 a.m., we're going to have our Earth Day walk in Green Expo. We're going to display some vehicles. People will be able to walk around the National Mall. You can meet us at the National Mall. You have to register to get a free T-shirt for walking. You can go to gwrccc.org, gwrccc.org. We're also going to have information tables. We have a lot of cool vehicles, all different types of fuel. And we're really looking forward to it. There'll be some live performances there. We're going to have a number of our elected officials at every level of government, plus their staff, talking about their commitment to our planet as well. So it's this Saturday, April 19th, Washington, D.C., National Mall. Don't meet me there, beat me there.
Wow. And I, for one, can't wait to be there. And now, Councillor Rafik, we'd like to ask you just one more quick question before we go into the Q&A. Something that I think will help us really understand the international context through which all of this work really applies. And so what we would like to know is something that's emerged as a result of the conversations that we've had with both city staff within Leeds and other local governments in the United Kingdom.
Yeah.
It appears that there's this clear system of cooperation between cities and the national government. And so could you briefly tell our audience more about the role that the national government plays in Leeds climate action planning and implementation?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the national government is there to set policy and devise guidance, and our job, obviously, locally is to interpret and implement national policy and guidance into our own strategy and policies throughout the council and city, and hence you'll see that different authorities, different cities have different priorities, and some do better than others when it comes to climate and energy stuff. Certainly in Leeds, we've made this as one of our top priorities. Hence, I think when it comes to the national context within UK, we kind of feature in top sort of tier authorities on this area of work. We are all aiming towards the same ambition, obviously, which is net zero. Therefore, I think working with the national government and having their support, and more importantly, funding to accelerate this is very important. I also think transparency and communication with national government is key to understanding what support local government requires to successfully achieve this. We've in the past couple of years, we've hosted a number of ministerial visits to our city to showcase the positive work we are doing to address the climate change and to reach net zero. Yeah.
Yes, certainly. Thank you for giving us some more context there. In particular, things that I've noticed from our conversations with local governments in the United Kingdom, which you've touched upon, is the role of financial assistance to implement climate solutions, and the setting of targets for cities to reach certain implementation goals as well. Two things that I think we'd love to see more of here in the United States. Now, I think this is a great time for us to segue into our Q&A section as well. And this is something that all three of you are more than welcome to chime in on across all of the questions that our audience asks, starting with Madeline, who has said that it's great to hear how active you are in your community on climate action. How have recent changes in U.S. national politics affected your local climate plans? Yes, I know that there's so many different ways in which this question could be addressed. I suppose maybe it would be interesting to hear a little bit from Antoine, given that we are here in the nation's capital, and the role of local governance is something that has been a topic of debate.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent question. There are a few things that are happening. So number one, people are moving forward. That's the number one thing, is that state and local governments are moving forward. Of course, it would be a lot easier if you had a willing national federal partner. And I think some of that hopefully will transition forward, maybe not as enthusiastically as under the Biden administration, but I will say in some respects, this current administration is taking an all of the above approach. Some things we agree with, some things we don't. We're going to have to advocate, we're going to have to fight, but local and state governments are still doing the work. Now, what we're seeing, though, is some are extending the timeframes for when low to zero emission vehicles will be required. But I think some of those goals were very ambitious anyway, right? I think some of those probably would have slowed down and been backed up a little bit. They were already starting to do some of that anyway because of the backlogs and because of the manufacturing parts, deployment, etc. The other thing I would just mention too, I think this gives us an opportunity for more local and state governments to invest more. We have been trying to say that the bipartisan infrastructure law, the Inflation Reduction Act, those were a down payment for the future. They were not going to do everything. They were a market signal. They were a catalyst for change, but those alone could not get the job done for a cleaner, greener transportation future and clean building future. So we've had a little bump in the road, but I think this is a great opportunity for both the state and local governments, the private sector, the foundation sector. Lock arms, let's do some more, and let's also see what else we can get out of the federal government. I always say, if you focus on the things you don't agree on, then you get nothing done. But as our Madeline knows very well, in politics, you got to figure out what you can do together and then go and see where you can build from there and find the common points. And I think that's part of this thing called politics. We never like to see the sausage made, but most of us like how the sausage tastes.
Well said, Antoine. Vicky, it looks like you'd like to chime in as well.
Just briefly, I want to echo that, Antoine. Well said. We are carrying on. We are cognizant at these various regional entities and in our city that there could be less federal dollars for certain programs than we had hoped. But we are focusing, we're continuing on with our programs, and we're focusing on things more like local generation and storage and things where we can be more independent and go on regardless. So it is frustrating. It's something you have to watch closely. It's something where you may need to rejigger your strategy. You have to be aware of this, but it's something that in some ways just, stiffens our resolve to do it and to figure out ways to move forward.
Yes, absolutely. And I think, as both of you have really noted, the thing that we can really take away here is that local governments are still doing amazing work. They're assigning focus to the places where they do have direct authority and the ability to invest and implement. This is something that we have seen in past eras as well. For instance, in 2017, when the United States withdrew from the Paris Agreement, it was local leaders in the United States who stepped up and made sure that we stayed true to our commitment to reach net zero as a society. This is something that we believe is more important now than ever in some ways as well. And that's why we're so happy to be working with people like you, as well as with many other local elected leaders across the country and across the world, to voice their commitment to continuing to implement climate solutions. All right, let's go ahead and move on to our next audience question. All right, this one is from Joshua. He asks, for cities with limited available real estate, what is the best way to scale up renewable energy?
I'll take a quick shot at that. We even though we're suburban, we have been built out here in Palo Alto for a long time. So you need to look at things like rooftop solar. We even have a little airport here. And so we're putting in new little roof shelters for the airplane, and on top of them putting solar panels and creating little microgrids right there. I think there are lots of ways to creatively do this. Like we're looking at rooftop heat pump HVACs for large buildings. And so you just have to be creative, look around at what other cities are doing that are in densely populated areas, and you'll find examples. And, as here in Silicon Valley, we're always looking at innovation for the next great thing.
Excellent. All right. I think we have time for one more question today. So let's go ahead and ask this question coming in from Dennis. Thank you, Dennis. This has been a great panel. Now, his question is that how can I, as a citizen, connect with local elected leaders and make my voice heard in city-level decision-making?
I'll jump right in. As I was on the city council, then I went to the state senate in New York. And so I would say the city level and local level is where the rubber meets the road. That's where we have the greatest impact. We have the opportunity to have the highest level of engagement. One thing I would say to you is, first, get to know your elected official. Know who's on the school board. Know who's your county commissioner, your county council member, your county legislator, and also who represents your neighborhood from the local level to the state level, federal level. But start with the local, right? You're easier to touch. They're not out of town as much. Get to know them. Schedule an office meeting. Get a petition. Find out what they're doing. Make sure they know about the issues that you care about. Request them to have a town meeting or a forum on environmental or clean energy policies. You have the power to do that. Get petitions on something. Now you can go to all different type of websites that can do petitions on any issue you care about on your own. And then follow up and be present. That's the most important thing. All of them are required to have public meetings. And when they have hearings, go on their websites. Many of them have social media pages. Inbox them, direct message them, send them snail mail. But show up and be present and let them know that someone cares about these issues. And understand that elected officials don't know everything. Don't be afraid to educate them, and just try not to make them feel dumb, but try to educate them. Tell them you're on their side, and then say thank you. Because one way to keep elected officials at the table is to always say, I appreciate your time and thank you for listening, because everyone wants to be heard. They want to hear you, and they want to make sure that you hear them as well.
Yes, absolutely, Antoine. You've listed so many different great ways in which you can actually make your voice heard, and it's been great. Councillor Rafik, did I hear you wanted to share as well?
Yeah, just to add what Anton's already said, I think there are so many different communication channels, how people can contact you. Email. Most of our here in Leeds elected members are available via email, phone, but also we hold regular surgeries in our wards as well, where people can come and see us. We hold community meetings we can go to depending on the type of issue, but we also have formal, what we call community committee meetings in each area, where you've got maybe 4 or 5 wards we represent, where we meet regularly. There's an agenda, and people can come and sit out here, ask questions, but also there's an open forum as well, where people can come if they got a particular local issue. Rather than putting in a petition, they can raise that with the community committee members, and we can take that away if we can't obviously answer it there and then. People are able to attend our scrutiny meetings, council meetings, but also all our meetings are streamed online as well nowadays, all formal meetings. From a climate and emergency, climate energy point of view, we've got climate emergency committee, advisory committee, climate emergency advisory committee, which is chaired by our climate champion, which is Councillor Dye, which meets on a monthly basis, as well as we have several working groups where we have our partners, different council departments come and update us, and present reports to the progress they're making, and members of the public can come and address the climate emergency advisory committee as well, as to whether they agree or disagree with something as well. It's not about suggestions we've had in the past where people are not kind of agree with us, particularly in terms of the climate emergency. Not everybody kind of is on board with that, so they can come and tell us why they can't. So there are various ample opportunities for people to get involved, to contact us on a one-to-one or in a groups as well.
Evan, I might just quickly add that if you don't want to just make a one-off comment, almost every body I sit on has a working group or a citizens advisory council where you can get appointed to that, or a commission. We have a utilities commission in our city, and that's a more formal way to make your voice heard on a more consistent level. So if you look for some of the bodies you're interested in, look and see if there's a community, a working group as well.
Yes, Vice Mayor Vinker, thank you very much for bringing that into the conversation as well. And I'd love to elevate that this is something that's open to people of all ages. I know that in some of the cities I've talked to, they even have a youth climate council, something that young people can join to make their voices heard. It's something that, of course, as elected leaders, you want to be able to represent all sections of society in order to do your jobs properly. And it's wonderful to hear about all of these channels through which you can do so. And as Antoine mentioned, as all of you mentioned, actually, there are these opportunities where you can go and speak publicly with your elected officials as well. And as Antoine mentioned, those are not only things that the city is curating themselves, but it's something that can also be put on by request. You can take it from me. I've worked with many cities over the course of this year to request them to host these types of climate roundtables. And you can do it too. In fact, you can go to earthday.org and download resources to learn how to request that your elected leaders create time and space for citizen voices to be heard. Many of these opportunities already exist in communities around the country and around the world. And this Earth Day and Earth Month, we highly encourage all of you to get out to your local opportunities to be an advocate and to make your voice heard, speak truth to power, and to be part of the process of building climate solutions in your city. If you log on to earthday.org, you can see right on our homepage an environmental activation map that supports thousands of events this month that reach millions of people. Just go ahead and search up your address, see what events are happening nearby, and get out and get engaged with your communities. And there you have it, folks. That brings us to the end of this episode of Earth Day Live. It's been such a pleasure to have all three of our esteemed panelists here with us for a delightful conversation, as well as all of you as audience members asking thoughtful questions and learning about the role that you too play in crafting the vision of your city. So again, I hope that everybody learned something today about all of the ways in which local governments are leading the way on renewable energy implementation and climate action, thinking locally, thinking about our global impact. How can we bring that into our own communities? Each and every one of us has the capability to make a difference. And this is what we mean by our power, our planet. Thank you again, and have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.